Hello, students of English language. Usually, sometimes we call them students of English as a second language. I'm going to tell you for a few minutes about all 16 verbal tenses of English language. I have been teaching English for 30 years. And so I know this very well. And sometimes language specialists or teachers are asked the question, how many tenses of verb are there in the English language? And professionals, some teachers, instructors, they cannot answer that question. I heard those interviews. They just don't know. And I know this, like we say in my language, in Russian, we say as my 5 fingers. Or in English, they say as the palm of my hand. I know this very well. I'm going to explain it to you. One tense here will be called as I learned it in my first bachelor's degree in University of Latvia many years ago, 30 years ago. As I learned it more than 30 years ago, and I'm going to give it to you like that. They do not teach like this in USA. I have been in USA for 27 years, and they do not teach here like this, but I will teach you like that because it is very sensible, it makes a lot of sense, and it is easy to remember this way. And after listening to my lecture, you are going to know very well this table of 16 verbal tenses of the English language, and you are going to have much easier time in your English grammar and your English classes. Just listen to me. This table is not difficult. It is very logical. English language grammar is not a difficult grammar. I'm telling you from the knowledge of Russian grammar, Spanish grammar, and if, for example, to come German grammar and French grammar to some extent, and Italian grammar, and I can compare, especially the 3 first. Russian, my native, English, my profession, and Spanish, I studied and worked with it. So these 3, Spanish, English, and Russian, they belong to 3 different language groups. They are completely different languages. English and Spanish use these 2 languages use Latin alphabet, and Russian language uses Cyrillic alphabet, Russian alphabet we also call it. But the grammar, they belong to 3 different groups of languages. English belongs to Germanic group of languages. It originated from Old German. Spanish, of course, is Romance language, Romance group of languages. And Russian belongs to Slavic languages. They are completely 3 different. Their grammars are very different. Like, for example, if we compare the theoretically in tables, the grammar of Spanish language and French language, they are the same grammars. They are used differently because I read all kinds of books. I read French grammarians about Spanish and so on, and like all crisscross. I read all kinds of strange stuff. I know what I'm talking about. So if you compare the tables of grammar of Spanish and French languages, which are relative languages because they belong to Romance group, the same group, you will see that grammar tables are the same in Spanish and French. However, if you dig deeper in the language, you will see soon that French grammar is used differently and Spanish grammar in the language used differently. I was asking questions about a high level of grammar. I was asking questions, the native speaker of Spanish, very educated, highly educated person who knew French very well, and he couldn't explain those examples which I was reading the book from. So I mean, I know what I'm talking about. However, I will repeat, I can compare three different groups of languages grammars very well. So I'm telling you that English grammar and German grammar, I just studied German for 4 years, official German classes, credit classes in Arizona colleges. For 4 years I was taking them. I know German grammar is difficult. It is different from, it's much more difficult than English. English grammar is a piece of cake compared to all those grammars which I told you. So listen to my verb tenses table. And by the way, teachers from who are were born in USA also can benefit from my lecture, because it is an interesting lecture from a person who knows a few languages, who can compare a few different grammars. Okay, so they do not teach like this in USA. So let's look at this table and let's make very good sense of it. Let's look on the top horizontal line. Well, at first let's look at the vertical line on the extreme left. On the top you see tense. So tenses, like in all languages, in all cultures, in all languages, we can talk about present, what we are doing now, what we are doing every day in our life or once a week. This is present tense. Past tense, what we did yesterday, what we did 2 weeks ago, what we did 5 years ago and 100 years ago, this is past. Future, in all languages, you take Arabic language, you will need to speak the same thing, yes, about present, about the past, about future. Future, tomorrow, 2 days from now, next week, next month, 5 years from now, and distant future in 100 years, okay? So this is future. And the last tense here, on the vertical, my vertical stripe, is future in the past. And like I already mentioned, they don't teach this in USA, but this is a good working title of this line, of this tense, and you will understand me when I will be giving later you examples. Also, if we look at the horizontal line of future, and if we look at the horizontal line of future in the past, you will see that those lines are almost identical. Only in the future horizontal line is used auxiliary will, and in future in the past horizontal line of the 4 tenses is used auxiliary would. This is the only difference between these 2 lines. Okay, so let's look back. We will come back to this, but let's look now on the top, on the horizontal line of the title, where again tense is written, only we are going to go from left to right. So that each tense of which I just enumerated, named present, past, future, or future in the past, each of them can be simple tense. This will be present simple, past simple, future in the past simple. Simple is the category of that tense. For present simple, those teachers who teach English, right away they would know very well we need to use adverbs of frequency, because these are repeated actions in our life. For example, I write every day a lot, or I write once a week some kind of composition, okay? So this will be adverbs of frequency, which is always, which is usually, which is often. And I'm not going into those, I'm just telling you now present simple. And if we go further on the horizontal line of the title, and we see continuous. So present continuous. So what is the difference between present simple and present continuous? In German language, no difference. In French language, no difference. In Russian language, no difference. But in English language, very different. Present simple from present continuous. And the difference is very easy. I am explaining it to you right now. Present continuous, the action is going on right now, at this moment. If you look at the picture, photo, you see that on the photo somebody is sitting or standing. This is going on right now at the moment. The moment is frozen in that picture. This is going on right now. So if I'm standing in front of the class of students, I start asking students, what are you doing right now? And they are saying, we are sitting, we are listening to you, we are writing, we are reading. And then I ask them, what am I doing? And they say, teacher, you are standing, you are running around of the class, you are explaining, you are speaking. So we start right away giving examples to each other to understand that. So present continuous is now. The adverb, time adverb is now for present continuous. Present simple, different. Present simple, we have again adverbs of frequency, which will be 100% of time always. I always do something, I always write something, I always work like something, and this will be 100% of time, and 0% of time will be never. So between never 0 and always, let's say on the top 100, we will have after always, if we go down, we go often, usually, sometimes, seldom, or rarely, and then we come to never. So this will be, we call adverbs of frequency. In Spanish, adverb is the frecuencia, and because many of my students are Spanish speakers, so I know both how to say. So this is present simple tense. We use every day in life, we use that tense because we need to explain what we do every day, what we do every week, where we go every weekend. So with some frequency, these are repeated actions in our regular everyday life with certain frequency. The frequency may be sometimes, frequency may be often, frequency may be rarely, very seldom, and frequency may be always or never. Okay, so these are. So the difference between present simple and present continuous is that continuous is only right now, describing the moment, and simple is repeated actions in our life in present category. If you look technically how they different when we look at them, you see that present simple tense is expressed in English very easily with just infinitive form or basic form of the verb. And in this table I have example of the verb write, and I'm showing it across all the table. Write. Why have I chosen the verb write? I have chosen the verb write because it is irregular verb which has 3 different forms. When we talk about verbs in English language, we need to right away remember that all English verbs may be regular or irregular. The teacher has to, the moment the teacher starts speaking about English verb, we have to right away let students know that all English verbs are divided in 2 groups, very unequal, very uneven groups, because regular, and then I will ask students, and some of them know, some of them don't know, or they know little, and I will be asking to encourage some, answers from them. I would ask students which group, very, very easy and very fun question. I will ask them which group is bigger, which group is smaller, how many are there in English language regular verbs, and how many are there irregular verbs in English language. And students will start, irregulars like that, like this, and usually students don't know, okay? And then you will just tell them that irregular verbs are only very few. They are only 200 or maybe 220 in the best tables. In more modest tables, maybe they are 150 or 180, okay? So these are table. This is the table of English irregular verbs. Students have to know very early in their study of English that there is a table of English irregular verb. I have the table in separate YouTube, and you can print it out of there. I made it especially for students to be on 1 page, because sometimes they are like on 2 pages, 1.5 pages. It's not convenient. 1 page is very convenient to carry it through all your notebooks everywhere. Yeah. And regular verbs are thousands and thousands and thousands of other verbs of the language, other than those irregular verbs. Okay, so regular are very many. We call them regular because they have the same ending In past tense and past participle, they have ending ed. And regular verbs we can divide in three groups by the way how we pronounce them. They are all the same because they all finish with ed in past and past participle form, which I tell you what are those forms too. For example, the verb work. Yesterday I worked, so I pronounce k, t, t. Or walked. I walked to the store. Okay, walk, or yesterday I walked. ed ending, I pronounce t. Then I say yesterday I played guitar. Played, we hear that pronunciation is d. The same ending, we spell ed, but we pronounce d. Played. I played guitar, or I learned German language last year. I learned after n, always pronunciation d. So t, the first case, the second case d, and the third case ed. For example, yesterday I visited my sister, id, okay? Or yesterday I painted my kitchen blue, okay? ed. So we have three kinds of pronunciation which students also have to practice and learn. They cannot remember from one lesson all of this, okay? So this is all practice, practice, practice. So this is about verbs. And let's come back to present simple and continuous. So we are working here with the verb write, and in present simple tense, conjugation will be quite simple. We use only infinitive form. I write, you write, he writes, we write, they write. We have to remember the only one thing, that in the third person singular, which is he writes, she writes, it, for example, computer or some machine, automatic, typewriter, I don't know, it writes, okay? S ending. S ending we have for third person singular in present simple tense. This is all the rules for the present simple tense in English language, while in other languages we have complete conjugation. I, you, he, she. We have different endings for all persons, for all person pronouns. We have all different endings, but in English not. In English very easy. How I say to my students, it's piece of cake, and a piece of cake. And so present continuous, as we see, the category of tenses, present, past, or future, future in the past, will always consist of two parts of the verb. The two parts of the verb actually are two verbs. One verb is the verb to be, and because it's present continuous, the verb to be is a present conjugation of the verb to be. I am, you are, he is, they are, we are. Okay, so we see in present continuous tense the present conjugation of the verb to be. And also the action verb, which is write, the verb to write in our case, we have it in ing form. Ing form has 4 different names, and usually I would write it on the board, and if I remember later about it, I will write it in my comments. If not, that's fine. I'm just telling you that not all teachers were asking me questions. Zoya, what are the names of those forms? Why they are called differently? They were calling in my classroom actually, and were explaining something and were asking. So I'm just telling that, concluding that not all teachers understand that and know this exactly. But the form writing, the ing form of the verb has 4 different names. I will just name those names to you, and some of you who are listening to me will know them or heard them, and other people say, okay, what is she talking about? We never heard it. But I'm telling you, this is. So the 4 names of the ing form of the verb are ing form. So this is the name of of this form, ing form. The second will be present participle. This is the name of this form, present participle. The third will be participle 1. The name participle 1. Also in other grammars we see participle 1, it's the same, or special part of grammar. We will need to call participial constructions, we will need to call this participle 1 or present participle. And the last name, the name number 4 of the ing form is gerund. Gerund usually is compared with infinitive. We have special part of grammar when students are in intermediate level, they are going to study the part of grammar, the chapter of grammar which calls infinitive versus gerund, or gerund versus infinitive. So this gerund we don't touch until we understand that, until we start studying that chapter of grammar. But for right now, just I'm telling you this form. The easy name is ing form. Easy working name is ing form. But actually, we apply it to different parts of grammar. We call it different ways. One more time, present continuous consists of the verb to be in present tense. I am writing, you are writing, he is writing, she is writing, it is writing, if it is applicable for the thing, it. We are writing, they are writing. This is present continuous tense, and the time is only now, right now. If you ask me what are you doing right now, and I say I'm writing a letter to my friend, okay, or I'm not writing, the negative is also easy in continuous tenses. I'm not writing a letter. Questions are easy. Questions will start with the verb to be, but we are not going there. We are just looking at this table right now, okay. The next category, so we had present simple tense, present continuous tense. The next category is perfect category. Look at perfect category, and if you look at the perfect category of present tense, past tense, and future in the past, you will see that all of that vertical column will have auxiliary have in all languages except Russian. You know, in all languages, in German, in Spanish, in French, in Italian, all languages will have perfect tenses, and they have auxiliary have. And because this tense we are looking right now, present perfect tense, this auxiliary have is going to be in present tense. So this conjugation is going to be present tense auxiliary have, and action verb, which is write. Our verb write, action verb in present perfect tense, is in past participle form. So now I have to, before we strengthen our knowledge about present perfect a little bit, I want to say about past participle. So let's look at the form written, and let's repeat three forms of the irregular verb, which is always the last verb of irregular table. Of the table of regular verbs, it's the last one. If you look at the table, any kind of table, small table, big table, look at the last W, it will be the last verb, very meaningful one. This verb we use always right away, we learn it right away, because this is what we do when we study language. We speak, we read, we write, okay? So this is very necessary verb for us to know. The more the better, okay? So written, so the three forms of the irregular verb: write, wrote, written, and this is how we try to remember irregular verbs, three forms. I have seen, especially in USA, I have seen the tables which show only two forms, infinitive and past tense, and they show the mixture of verbs, irregular and regular, and the student is very confused. The student doesn't understand what's going on. Where is regular, where's the regular, what's the difference, how to remember all of this. No, this is very incorrect. Student has to have idea about irregular verbs, that this is the table, and little by little you will study it. At first you will know 10 verbs, then 20 verbs, which we use every day, and this is the way you study it. And regular verbs, they are different, okay? They are ED, you study just pronunciation of those. Yes. So the idea that irregular verbs have three forms, and you have to study them three forms, this idea, if you learn from the beginning, it will help you a lot when you go from present to past and to perfect tenses. You will know right away, you will remember that you already know three forms: write, wrote, written. Write we use for present simple tense. Wrote we use only for past simple. We are going to be there a little bit later. Wrote only for 1/10 of 16 tenses, only for past simple. And the third form we call past participle. Also we call it participle 2 in the language, in grammar books. Participle 2 or past participle. I jokingly always tell students PP. PP is past participle, the first masculine letters, past participle, PP, and the same in Spanish will be pasado participio and PP, and so they are laughing. Yes, so present perfect consists of auxiliary have and past participle of the action verb. And let's conjugate it. I have written, you have written, he has written, she has written, it has written. Probably not possible that unless it's some kind of machine, robot, it has robot, it has written. We have written, they have written. This is the conjugation of present perfect tense. Present perfect tense, we are going usually to compare it with past simple tense, present perfect, and past simple. And the experienced teacher knows in a few seconds, in 1 minute, an experienced teacher will know the level of a student. If student can make the difference very quickly and can answer the questions about past simple and present perfect simultaneously, that student belongs to intermediate level. If student only knows present simple, present continuous, past simple, and future simple, that student belongs to high beginner level. Okay, so we know very well how it goes, how the knowledge of the student of English language develops, so we can right away tell what is the level of that student. Okay, so present perfect tense will know only students of intermediate level. I'm explaining here the table. I'm not doing anything for any levels. I'm explaining generally, and knowledgeable students would like to listen to this explanation. Then next, in our top horizontal line, title line, the next category of tense is perfect continuous. Look how easy. We had a simple category, we had continuous category, but now we have then we had perfect, and now we have perfect continuous. No new, nothing new, perfect continuous. How easy? Why? Because, and we are looking now at present perfect continuous tense. Because it is perfect, of course, it needs auxiliary have, which it has. Because it is present perfect continuous, it needs this auxiliary have to be in present tense. So we just repeat those auxiliaries from perfect tense. I have, you have, he has, she has, it has, we have, they have. Because it is a continuous tense, present perfect continuous tense, it's continuous, the action verb will be only in its continuous form, which we call ing form. Okay, one of the names, ing form. Okay, so we have these two for present perfect continuous, have and writing. But what happened? We have I have been writing, he has been writing. Wow, we forgot that continuous tense is not consisting just only from ing form of the verb. Continuous tense consists of two parts, the verb to be and action verb in ing form. Where is the verb to be? The verb to be is between ing form and auxiliary have. And what is it doing? After auxiliary have, the rule in all languages of the world should go past participle form. So past participle form of the verb to be, it is irregular verb. And let's see what is past participle form. Past participle form is been. Let's repeat. How do we know the past participle form of the verb to be? The verb to be in English language is irregular verb, and it has a few forms instead of like all other English verbs, or they are irregular, they have maximum 3 forms plus ing form. If they are regular, they have the same form for past form and for past participle. For example, work, worked, worked, play, played, played, and so on. So this ed for past tense and for past participle form, they are the same always. Okay, so those verbs have only 2 possible forms, and the third is ing form. Okay, so the verb to be is a little bit different. It's the strongest verb of the strong. So it is irregular, very irregular. It has a few forms, but they are very easy. In English language, the present infinitive is be, or with particle to is to be. To be is the infinitive, the basic form of English verb, to be. Without particle, be, the verb be. Present personal forms are I am a teacher, I am. You are a student, one person. You are. He is a teacher. He is an engineer. He is a writer. He is. She is. It is. It is a desk. It is a computer. It is a table. It is a ceiling, a lamp. Okay? We are. We are people. We are students. We are teachers. We are engineers. They are. They are students. They are teachers. English verb to be in present tense has only 3 personal forms. Am, is, are. Whatever you do, there are only 3 of them. There are only 3 of them, okay? Past forms, only 2 of them. Only 2 of them. For singular persons will be the form was. Both past forms of the verb to be start with W. Was and plural form were. And I'm conjugating in past tense the verb to be. I was, you were, he was, she was, it was, we were, they were. For example, I was yesterday at the supermarket, and he was yesterday in school, and they were yesterday in the zoo. Okay, so past tense of the verb to be, only 2 forms, was, were. Past participle of the verb to be, we already mentioned it, been. When I speak to Spanish speakers, I always joke, I say this is a frijol. Frijol is a bean, B-E-A-N. But we understand that the spelling is a little bit different, but the pronunciation is the same. So this is a funny joke, kind of, for Spanish speakers. Yes. So our spelling here is B-E-E-N, bean. So we have infinitive form be, personal present forms am, is, are, past forms of the verb to be, to only, was, were, and past participle, been. And of course, we may need sometimes ing form of the verb to be, which is being. And being consists of 2 syllables, being. Ing form of the verb to be. And it is it participates in human being, in the noun human being. You know, I'm a person, I'm a human being, as compared to a robot. Okay, being. So these are all forms of the verb to be, about 6, 7 of them. And that's it. That's it. No other forms. So here in present perfect continuous tense, the tense has 3 words in its name. Present perfect continuous. It has 3 forms of the verb participating in its form. Present perfect continuous. I have been writing. You have been writing. He has been writing. She has been writing. We have been writing. 3 forms, have been writing. Present perfect continuous. 3 words in the name and 3 words in the form itself. Now, let me give you, even for beginners who are listening here, beginners, it's too early for them, but still, if I tell you that, it will make easier your future life with verbs, because you already will remember information, this general information, which is very easy. So the question is, sometimes students say, teacher, what is the difference between present perfect and present perfect continuous? Is there a big difference between these two perfect tenses? One is present perfect, and second is present perfect continuous tense. Is there a big difference? For example, I have worked as a teacher for 30 years. Or, I have been working as a teacher for 30 years. What is the difference between these 2 statements, sentences? I have worked as a teacher for 30 years, or I have been working as a teacher for 30 years. Basically, they are mutually replaceable. I can say I have worked for 30 years, that's correct. Or I can say I have been working for 30 years, also correct. So in this case, in this example, my own choice. Do I choose present perfect? I have worked. This is just a factual phrase. How long I worked, for 30 years. Or if I say, if I choose present perfect continuous tense on purpose, that means I want to emphasize the longevity of my work. I have been working for 30 years and I have been teaching and I have been explaining and I have been doing this and that. So this is my personal choice. However, not always it will be mutually replaceable. In English grammar, there is a part of grammar where students specifically will be learning the difference between present perfect and present perfect continuous. In certain cases, only present perfect will be correct. In other cases, only present perfect continuous will be correct. So this will be a different part of grammar. But generally, many times they may be mutually replaceable. These two, present perfect or present perfect continuous. Also, present perfect continuous. Look at it. It looks a bulky, means long form, verbal form. But look how easy it is. We do not have now the forms here, okay? Because we already know how to conjugate the present tense of the verb have. I have, you have, he has, they have, okay? We already know writing or ing form of any verb is very easy to create, right? We know ing form. And been, only one form. So it's actually repeated one form. Even it is very bulky, consists of 3 parts, but it's easy. This form is easy and logical. Let's go to the second line, which is past tense line, horizontal line. The first tense is past simple tense. Past simple tense, because our verb write is irregular, we are going to take write, wrote, written from 3 forms of irregular verb. We are going to choose the second form. This second form is very interesting because it is very, very stable form which will express only one tense out of 16 tenses of English, verbal tenses of English language. Only past simple. Only one time we are going to use this second form. So irregular verbs can have 3 different forms. For example, write, wrote, written. Take, took, taken. Give, gave, given. Or they may have the same two forms. For example, read, read, read. No, read, read, read will be different, but still, read, read, pronunciation wise, yeah. Read, read, read. Or they may have 3 forms the same. Put, put, put. Cut, cut, cut. Hurt, hurt, hurt. Hit, hit, hit. Okay, irregular may be 3 forms the same or 3 forms different. So I chose here 3 forms different so we could make a good distinction between them. So past simple tense, I always tell my students. So past simple tense, if you do not know that form number 2, if it is a regular verb and you don't know it, you don't know how to express how to use that verb in past tense. You don't know how to use it with timing verbs, adverbs yesterday or last year or last month or 3 years ago. You don't know. In my experience, I have met students whose conversational language in California, whose conversational language was pretty good because they speak, you can understand them. But those students hardly could read English and they did not know grammar. How did they go around? Somehow you would understand them. They would go around with different phrases without knowing correct forms of the verbs. But this is rare, okay? Usually, of course, we need to be understood. We need to know forms of the verb. The better grammar, even your pronunciation is not very good like my, strong accent, yes. But if you know grammar correctly, think about it, you can write perfectly. You can write everything beautifully. Even if they don't understand you, you can send them a note, or you can express 10 different ways, and they will understand you, you know. So grammar is very important. So past simple tense is easy, only you have to know past tense form. Or if it is regular verb, like I worked, I learned, I played, you have to know how to pronounce that past tense of regular verb. So simple past tense, one more times, the time verbs will be here yesterday, 2 days ago, 3 days ago, 100 years ago. Easy. Let's go to past continuous, and we already know present continuous, which was consisting of the present tense of the verb to be and ing form. And the same way, in past continuous, we have past tense of the verb to be, which we already repeated, was and were, only two forms of the past tense, and ing form of the verb. Let's conjugate past continuous tense. I was writing, you were writing, he was writing, she was writing, it was writing, we were writing, they were writing. And as with present continuous tense, we were describing the moment, or we are describing the moment right now. I am speaking, I am talking to you right now, to everybody, okay? This is present continuous tense, I am talking. But yesterday, from 2 p.m. to 3 p.m., I was writing that important business letter to somebody, okay? I was writing. So with past continuous tense, we are going to describe the moment, kind of lasting moment, continuous action, activity in the past. That activity may be for 1 hour, the activity more maybe for a few hours, but we are describing this continuous activity. And theoretically, you see, it's very easy. It's the same as present continuous, only the verb to be logically in past tense. This is past continuous tense. Let's go to past perfect tense. Past perfect tense. Let's look at present perfect tense. It consists of have, has, the present forms of auxiliary have, and past participle form of the action verb. Past perfect tense consists of past form of the auxiliary have and past participle form. It is the same as present perfect, only auxiliary should be in past tense, because this tense we call past perfect tense, okay? Past perfect tense. Let's repeat the irregular verb have, because it is very important. In English language it has two functions. One function of the verb have is in terms of possession. I own something. I have a house. I have a car. I have a pen. I have a computer. And the second very important function of the verb have is auxiliary, which we see in this table. Auxiliary to create perfect tenses. And for example, I have written this letter today. I have already done that, so this is present perfect tense. Or past perfect, I had written the letter yesterday when you stopped by at my place at 5 p.m. I already had written that letter. And I always tell my students, how bad do you need past perfect tense? Not very bad, not very badly, you need it, okay? Not very bad, you need it. Not very much you need past perfect tense. Actually, if you know very well past simple tense, you can explain everything, even in your writing. You can explain everything only with past simple tense. You will be just explaining very exact timing. However, when you are in higher grammar, in more complicated English, then you want to use in one sentence, two past tenses describing 2 or 3 events. One event will be first event, earlier than the second event. So the second event, which is later, you are going to express with past simple. The one which is earlier, 2 hours before or 2 years before, you are going to use past perfect tense. So perfect is completed action before moment in the past. Present perfect tense, completed action before the moment in present. Past perfect, completed action before moment in past. Okay, so right now that's enough will be for us, this explanation. And theoretically, you see, it's very easy. And also important, remember that you don't need it until you already in intermediate level and so on and so forth. Okay, past perfect. And of course, logically, the next tense in the past horizontal line is past perfect continuous. Let's look at present perfect continuous, which we already discussed. We had I have been working, you have been working. Here we have past form of the verb have, which I wanted to repeat and forgot. I'm speaking without paper, just from my head. So let's repeat those 3 forms of the verb have are have, had, had. So infinitive have, past tense had, and past participle had. The same. Past participle and past tense are the same in the verb have. Okay, have, had, had. Students are often confuse the form has. Very, very often. That's why I want to mention it here. Verb has nothing to do in 3 forms of irregular verb have. Have, had, had. You have to remember like the name of your mother. Have, had, had. Have, had, had. Have, had, had. But if you want present tense, you are going to conjugate in present tense the verb have. I have a car. He has a computer. She has a house. And we have this beautiful classroom. Okay? Or this in the internet or something. Okay? So do not confuse has. Has is personal present form of the verb have. While we are looking at irregular verb have, as irregular, it has 3 forms. Have, infinitive, had, past tense, had, past participle. Do not confuse has and had. They are 2 different things, okay? Okay, so past perfect continuous. I had been writing, you had been writing, he had been writing, she had been writing, they had been writing. They had been writing this composition until yesterday. Every day, every class, they were adding to that composition. They had been writing until yesterday. And then teacher came and collected their papers. Okay. So past perfect continuous tense, it's continuous. Okay. We emphasize continuity, and simultaneously we are telling here about the completed action before some moment in the past. This is the idea of past perfect. Okay, continuous just give you the continuity, and as you see theoretically, it looks the same as past perfect continuous. Only the difference is the past tense of auxiliary have, which is had been writing. Let's move on to the next line. Future horizontal line. And let's see, and always I say to students, how easy is future English future simple tense? Very easy. It has auxiliary will. And this auxiliary is good for all pronouns, all personal pronouns. I will write, you will write, he will write, she will write, it will write, some kind of device. We will write, they will write. How easy? Question is very easy. Will you write? Yes, I will. Will he write? Yes, he will. And so on. So future simple is extremely easy. And extremely easy will be to know for you how to use it. Because future is tomorrow. Future is 2 days from now. Future is the day after tomorrow. Future is next Sunday and next month and next year and 5 years ahead. Okay, all of this future. So future timing is very easy, and future A simple tense is very easy, as you see. The next tense is logically future continuous tense. Look at present continuous tense. It consists of the verb to be in present tense. I am writing, you are writing. And look at future continuous. I will be writing. Why we have this form, will be writing, in future continuous. For all persons the same in American English. This is because will is auxiliary for future. It has nothing to do as active verb at all. It is only auxiliary. That's it. Only function is auxiliary, okay? Here in this table. Then, if it is future continuous, our action verb should be in ing form. So we use writing. However, the any continuous tense, verbal tense, consists of two parts. The verb to be and ing form. In what shape we are going to have here the verb to be? Look at future simple. Will write, he will write, you will write. Will takes only infinitive after itself. Only infinitive. This is the rule. This is why future simple tense is very easy, because it takes only infinitive. Infinitive we don't have to study. We already know basic form of the verbs, many of them, okay? I will write, I will work, I will go, I will sing, anything, okay? So, logically, in future continuous tense, we are going to use the verb to be in infinitive form. Infinitive. Will be writing. Infinitive of the verb to be is be. I will remind you, personal present forms of the verb to be is I am, you are, he is, am is, are. But infinitive is be. And infinitive we need in future continuous tense. Very easy tense, for all persons the same. I will be writing, you will be writing, he will be writing, she will be writing, they will be writing tomorrow from 5 p.m. to 7 p.m. Okay? We are describing the moment in future, this continuity, okay? This activity in future in continuous aspect we are describing. Very easy. And the next is future perfect tense. Look what's going on. Let's look at present perfect tense, and we had two parts there. We had auxiliary have and action verb in past participle, have written. In past perfect we had auxiliary had in past tense and written in past participle. What's going on in future? In future we need all these parts. In future we need auxiliary of future, will. We need auxiliary of perfect, perfectness, perfect, have, and we need in perfect tense, we need past participle. Our action verb in perfect tense is always past participle. All three parts we have here. Okay, we understand will, it's future auxiliary. We understand written, it's a part of any perfect tense, past participle. What happens with auxiliary, perfect auxiliary have? It needs to be in infinitive because it follows auxiliary will. From future simple, we see that it consists of will and infinitive. So will have to be has to be always followed by infinitive form of any verb. So in this case, we need perfect auxiliary. So this is how we have logically these three parts of the future perfect tense. Will, have, written. Do we use it often? Not really. Okay, so don't be scared. We don't need it often. I will have written, you will have written. By some time, by future, we will need sometimes to explain a completeness of some action. So we will use this form. Not very often. Very easily you can live without this form. But it is part of this table and this logical table, and it is here. And the next one is future perfect continuous, of course. And future perfect continuous consists of 4 parts, because we have here future auxiliary will, or auxiliary, sometimes we say helping verb, auxiliary or helping verb, will, future. We have, because it's continuous, the action will, verb always will be in ing form. So we have these two parts, here red color, will, writing. In between we need to have perfect feature, have, okay, and we need to have be feature for continuous form. So perfect have will have present form because it follows, infinitive form, because it follows will have. But after have, as a rule, cannot be any form. After perfect have, auxiliary only past participle. This is how we have here the verb to be in past participle form. Everything logical. If you listen to me attentively, all this big bulky form consisting of 4 words is very logical form. I will have been writing. Tomorrow by 9 p.m. I will have been writing this book already for 3 days. Because I started 3 days ago, 9 p.m., right? So tomorrow, that moment of completeness, will have been writing. I will still be writing the hours of tomorrow, okay? So in this bulky tense, future, perfect continuous, we have future, we have completeness, and we are emphasizing the continuity, all of this. And this is how it looks. Will have been writing. Are you going to use it often? Not really. Not really. Only when you already know the language very well and you know how to go around the language. I already told you in the beginning of the lecture that the horizontal stripe of future tenses, of 4 future tenses here, future simple, future continuous, future perfect, and future perfect continuous, is very alike, very similar to the next line below it, future in the past. The only difference is that future line of tenses has will auxiliary and future in the past has would auxiliary. No other differences. Look, you just copy that. Only don't forget to replace will for would. Will for would, will for would, will for would. 4 times replace. And the same thing. I will explain you very quickly what kind of name. Like I said, in USA they don't use this name, but I use it because this is how they taught me in my university 100 years ago. They called it future in the past. Russians. I had the Latvian people, but not important. It's logical, Russians, Latvians, they use future in the past. Name of that tense. Here I didn't hear this name. This is a very logical name. Why? I'm giving you example. Yesterday he said to me that he would go to Mexico next year. You understand? We today are in September 19th, 2022. Yesterday was September 18th, 2022. And yesterday that person said to me that he would go to Mexico next year, which is year 2023, okay? And in other languages, like in Russian language, I can say, yesterday he said to me that he will go to Mexico. In Russian language, I will use past tense and then future tense, and there will not be confusion. But in English language, it is a very big mistake. If I started my sentence with past tense, yesterday, I need to use past simple tense. Yesterday he said to me, okay? Say, said, irregular verb which has past and past participle the same. Said, say, said. So yesterday he said to me, in Spanish, dijo, él dijo. Yesterday he said to me, and I cannot say that he will, because will I can use only in present context or in future context. If I started with past, I have to continue with the tense which is somehow covered with this pastness, with this past feature, which is future in the past. Would. Instead of will, I'm going to use would for future in the past. Would also we can describe as, we can say here as auxiliary for future in the past in this table. We also will show teachers, we will show would in the three modals: would, could, should. And right away you will explain on the board what is would, what is could, what is should, and you will ask students what they know about each one, you know, and you will put explain that. Okay, so would also is a modal verb. The modality will be conditional. Okay, for example, if I were you, I would go there. If I were at your place, I would go there, but I'm not you, so I'm not going to go there. Okay, so would is conditional auxiliary. So this is, we also can call it modal verb, which is used for conditional tenses, but here I can just call would as auxiliary for future in the past also. It serves as auxiliary for this. Okay, and so we have I would write. We easily can make of this our conditional sentence. You know, I would write for you. I would write for you if I had, no, I would write that if I had that textbook. But because I didn't have that textbook, I was not able to write that. Okay. So many examples we can make here with conditionals. Would. Yes, would, the first verb should be in past tense, okay, the first verb of that sentence. I would write, so this is a conditional, I would, but obviously it's not reality, okay, I would with some condition, okay. And the future in the past continuous, I would be writing, you know, if I had that textbook, I would be writing now. I would be writing and writing, you know, to be prepared for that composition. But because I don't have that, it is a condition, right? Because I don't have that condition, the textbook, I cannot write, okay? And the next is future in the past perfect. I would have written. Future in the past perfect belongs to English three conditionals. The part of grammar where we discuss in English conditionals. English conditionals are very easy. They are conditional 1, conditional 2, conditional 3. There are some, you know, some things we need to explain, but basically, theoretically, they are very, very easy. So would have written exactly this future in the past perfect form belongs to conditional 3 of English. For example, if I had bought that textbook, I would have written that report. But because I never bought that textbook, I have not completed this report. Okay, so this should be in the first part should be past perfect, and second part would be this. Will be this future in the past perfect. Okay, so this is one more time conditional 3. If you look at conditional 3, you will see this form. Okay, here it is future in the past perfect, and the last one is future in the past perfect continuous. I would have been writing. The same thing as future in the past perfect, only with emphasizing continuity. And of course, when in class, you can give more examples to students. I'm here in a little bit limited timing, so I'm not going to give that, but maybe later in my comments I will. On the bottom of my table, let's repeat all the forms of the irregular verb to be. To be is infinitive, it's not personal form. Personal present forms are am, is, are. Past forms of the verb to be are was and were. Past participle form of the verb to be, been. We had all these forms in this table, so please be friendly right away with irregular table. Find it in my, I will put the link under the lecture, and print it out, have it on one page, look at it, Being, also ing form is, from the verb to be, is being. okay? And we have it in human being, for example. Or you are being a good student, you know, you should do this and this and this, okay? We have it. Sometimes we use it. And the second verb, let's repeat our action verb of the table. Write, wrote, written. This is a regular verb, which is always last verb of the irregular table, a table of irregular verbs of English. Write, for infinitive, we use for present simple tense. I write, you write, he writes, she writes. Wrote, we use only for 1/10 of 16. For past simple tense. And written, we use for all perfect tenses. For all perfect tenses, we use for, look, we have 4 of them here. We have perfect present perfect, past perfect, future perfect, and future in the past perfect, and we will need this always this past participle form. Write, wrote, written. And a few regular verbs here. Work, worked, worked. Learn, learned, learned. And I show 3 regular verbs which refer to 3 different rules of pronunciation. So the student may think, oh, how easy. You know, we have thousands of verbs which have the same endings for past tense and for past participle. Ed, ed, ed. But no, stop being happy because we need to understand and to repeat after teacher and to review all these 3 types of pronunciation. Many times when I read with students a book, you know, a feature, a literature, you know, literature book, and students do not know how to pronounce simple regular verbs like work, you know, worked, and they will make mistakes. I don't like to repeat mistakes, otherwise I would repeat what kind of mistakes they make. But teachers who are listening to me, they will know. Worked, worked, remember, and you repeat it for them 10 times, so they would repeat after you. Worked. It's 1 syllable. You tell them it's 1 syllable. It's not 2 syllables, as they try to pronounce. Worked, worked, worked. K, t, both voiceless, and logically, k takes voiceless t. Worked, worked. Voiceless can be near only voiceless. This is how our articulation works. Voiceless cannot be followed by voice. Worked. It's not impossible. This is how our muscles work. Okay. The next is learn, learned, learned, and n is voiced, and d is voiced consonant, and so they learned, learned. And the last one I told you, the 3rd type of pronunciation of regular is id. So we'll go paint, painted, or visit, visited. So this is the 3rd type of regular. And of course the auxiliary of perfect is have. It is irregular verb, and this verb has infinitive have and 2 the same forms for past and past participle. Had and had. Let's repeat it. Have, had, had. And I will try to put more examples in my comments. For the time being, I will say goodbye to you, and I hope it was helpful, this table of 16 English verbal tenses. Thank you. Bye. Till next time.